Justin.
And this month we're going to be talking about found footage films.
That was your theme you picked, right?
It's a good one. I mean, I'm just going to say I feel like there's a running overall theme going through most of the things that I've chosen this year. We started off with true crime. We've gotten to found footage. And, spoiler alert, we might be doing documentaries later this year because, I don't know, I just keep going for real things. There's something about being
Real.
a real story that, it adds some stakes to things. But yeah, I think we have a good group of found footage films we'll be talking about. I don't think we didn't pick any of the what I think are the ones that everyone thinks of when you immediately say found footage films.
The Blair Witch
You know,
Project. Cloverfield.
Paranormal Activity.
I didn't like that movie. That'd be
Those are
rough to have to go through again.
those are the three. I don't like Blair Witch Project either. I'll say that.
I
I think it's very overrated.
don't think it's overrated for the time. That's just me.
I don't know. It never. I don't want to say it never scared me because we've discussed in the past that we don't have a ton of films that we're like, oh, I was so scared, but I don't know. Even watching it when it first came out, I was just like, oh, eh, okay. It was an okay movie, I guess. I think it's because I didn't think it was real even from the beginning. Like, there was something in my mind. Like, I'm a very skeptical person to begin with. I don't believe
I didn't think
most
it
things
was
I
real
read.
either. The first time I watched that movie, they already said that it wasn't real, but just the way MTV was the one that really seemed to be pushing that movie, I just didn't believe that it was. The best part of the Blair Witch Project is literally the last minute of the movie. That's the movie. That really is the entire movie. You can say whatever you want about it. I didn't personally make it, so I don't have any stakes against it.
I feel like, too, it was a weird. The way it was. And I don't know. Just the way it was presented, too, when it came out. And then all the hype that has surrounded it going forward since its release. Yeah, like you'd almost think that was the first found footage film ever made when it's very clearly not. They go back. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the earliest one that I can think of or really know of would be the all the different uh, cannibal films that came out of Italy, like Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox. Like all those movies are all found footage films. So it's like the genre in itself, and the film we're talking about today predates Blair Witch by like 7 years, I think. So it just always gets put up there as like this is the movie that really started it all, and I'm like, but not really. I think it was just the most popular at the time. It's the one that it was the first Hollywood one maybe because I don't know because the film we're talking about today, Man Bites Dog, is a Belgian film, and the other ones, like I said, were Italian, so it was a foreign idea to begin with, I guess.
I think what maybe makes Blair Witch stand out more than the older films is now we're in the world of marketing and it was
Yeah.
highly marketed to everybody and people were talking about this movie as if it was real. I was skeptical too, but you had a lot of word of mouth on top of the fact that
I
the
mean,
marketing
you
was
could
it's
even
real.
say it's better marketing, but even Cannibal Holocaust was kind of in a way marketed to be real. Like the director of that film, I know he paid his actors and he told them like, don't appear in any films after you've done this. Like go into hiding. And then that was a whole thing where he got sued and he had to get the actors to come into court to basically say, yeah, we weren't actually killed. Like it's a movie, but he was the first one
What
to
if he
come up with
couldn't
that
find the
idea.
actors?
Yeah, what if they actually did die like somewhere else? Yeah, I mean he'd be in prison, I guess. But yeah, again, that's where I kind of go back to. It gets brought up that well, the marketing that it was so real, and I'm like, but somebody else already even did that. Like that was his whole thing was trying to convince the world that this thing was truly a real film of, cannibals in the Amazons that killed people. Like I said, to go so far as to tell his actors not to appear in other movies immediately after the release. Like basically go take a vacation for a year and we're gonna pretend like you all died. So even its own marketing campaign still isn't really original. It just went further because the internet was getting big at the time of its release. So
Let's
I mean, I
produce a
don't.
real found footage film. Let's find a real one.
Let's just find some footage. Let's just go out there and find some footage.
Like
How
Indiana
hard could
Jones.
that
I'm
be?
just looking for a found footage film that's real.
Yeah, let's just go find some footage. But yeah, like I said, we're this week we're talking about the Belgian film Man Bites Dog, which it's the French or Belgian translation is "It Happened in Your Neighborhood," which is also weird. They're both weird titles for for the film. And yeah, it's an interesting one. It's I'll give it a plug since we always do. It is on the Criterion Collection, and that's
And
where
the
I first.
Criterion Channel.
Yeah, that's where I first. It's on HBO Max too. That's where I watched it, even though I do own it. But it
And
was streaming
probably
on HBO
Canopy.
Max. And I think yeah. So it's out there. It's not hard to find. But that's where I first saw it was buying the Criterion because I think it was going out of print a long time ago. I think it's back in print now, but it was one of those ones that was going out years ago when they would like really hype up, hey, these movies are going out of print. You might want to buy them and get people to buy the DVD copies. That now they've released a lot of those back on 4K and Blu-ray.
Right. Peeping Tom, that must have been the same time, and that's coming
Yes,
back.
that's
That's
where
getting a 4K
that's
in
where I
May.
bought that's where I bought my copy of that too. Yeah, same thing. So, yeah, this is a film about a small group of filmmakers who find a guy who's I. It's never established how they found him. If it was in like an ad or something like that they put out for looking for people, or they just stumbled across him. But uh, their main star of their film that they're making is a serial killer who actually I don't even know if you'd call him a serial killer because he doesn't have any real uh, he doesn't seemingly have any motives for these murders, and he doesn't follow any sort of pattern. He just
He is a
seems
serial killer,
completely.
though.
That's how most people would describe him, but he doesn't necessarily fit the pattern.
Not completely, but he does shoot people, multiple people, more than three of the same way as a serial killer. So even if he does kill a
Hmm.
few a completely weird ass way, I would say it counts.
Yeah, yeah. Benoit, their protagonist, uh, who leads a life of yeah. This is how he makes his money is killing people to get their. He says he especially likes killing old people because then he can get their checks and cash in like their social security checks, and they usually always have money like stashed around their house. You know, as he tells us, he doesn't like killing kids. It gets messy. That's a problem
He
for him.
does shoot two kids in it with a
Yeah,
toy gun, but he does. Well, they do kill a kid, so
he does have to kill that one kid. Yeah, he does have very very different ways for everybody. A lot of shooting, but one of my favorites is when he scares the old woman to death, and he's just like, I saw she had heart medication on her table. I figured I could probably just give her a heart attack.
save a bullet.
Save a bullet, yeah. Makes a lot less of a mess.
I remember seeing this cover, but I was thinking that it was a French New Wave film, and it does still kind of have that feel to it, but I didn't know that it was a found footage film at all, and I would certainly say minus one scene, it's pretty much a comedy. It reminds me a lot of Borat. That's what I kept thinking of the entire time I was watching it. It just felt like a Borat thing where he just, every thought that he has just comes out of his mouth. He has an opinion on everything. He wants to share all this information that he has. Little scenes where he's like, this is so and so's bed. And look, there's a light here. And it just reminds me of something straight out of that movie. So I wouldn't be surprised if it influenced them somehow. And
Yeah,
then I read that this was at Cannes. I think that was the festival in
yeah.
1992. And that's where Quentin Tarantino and Steve Buscemi saw it. Steve Buscemi says it's one of his top 10
Yeah.
movies. And Tarantino, there was some story about him punching a guy to try to get the back in to see it a
Yeah,
second time.
he got into a fight with a security guard or something, trying to get into the second showing. Because he said he was just so excited to see the film. He was all jacked up and was like, "I gotta see this movie. You gotta let me in." So yeah, it has an effect on people.
They said it inspired Natural Born Killers, which I would say that this is way better than Natural Born Killers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it would have been the idea, I guess, in general, of the idea of like the media, like how much he's being influenced, like would he necessarily even commit all these crimes or be doing it as often if he didn't have a film crew? Because he's definitely showing off for them. Uh, and then at some point he does get in there where he needs them to like help him in the middle of crimes, especially when he after he gets punched in the boxing ring and breaks his neck and can't do anything for himself. Which I don't like you're saying about how there's so much comedy in that film. I do love that scene of the guy just like drops him with one punch. And he's just laying on the floor, and that gym manager's just like, "I told him he hasn't been practicing often enough. That he just has the neck brace that he can't dump bodies." Which we see him do that multiple times. He's always taking bodies to the quarry and dumping them in.
And those scenes are really funny. The first one, where he's not at the rock quarry, but the one where he's next to the train.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
he dumps it. It's
imagine.
like too shallow, and it just like lands there.
Oh yeah, because the scene before that is him explaining how you have to weigh down the body so it doesn't float, and then he throws it in the shallowest water, and it just sits there. But when that train passes by, my thought is the conductor of that train. I wonder if he knows that this is a movie because he literally just went past somebody that's dumping a body-shaped body bag essentially over the bridge.
Yeah, he tries that. Then from that point on, he always has to go to the quarry to keep dumping them, uh, which then leads to a great scene after at the point when he does break his neck and he's having trouble when he goes to dump the bodies and just looks down and they've drained the entire quarry and you just see like just piles of bodies and skeletons lying on the bottom and he's just like, I think we have a problem.
I think I'm
But he
tricked too because they made it in 99 or it was released in or sorry, 92 is when it came out and it feels even though you can see that the cars are modern, it feels like it's supposed to be a 60s or the 50s or something. It really does just feel like a French New Wave film when I'm watching it. So it just keeps
it feels
throwing
like
me off and I
it
think it's
fits
older and then I keep seeing these violent images of like it is pretty graphic. It
yeah.
feels really graphic at least.
It feels like it could 100% just be like right in there with a Godard movie or something like that. Like oh yeah, he did a Band of Outsiders and then Man Bites Dog and then followed it up like yeah, it has that great the black and white cinematography is great. I'm sure they filmed it that way probably because it was cheaper and also probably helps with the effects that might not have been all great looking. It hides the fact that maybe they couldn't get the color of the blood right or something like that, but uh, it looks great. Pretty much no score to it, just whatever music you hear in the background. But the main character is just he's such a bizarre guy. Like you were saying, he has an opinion on everything, and he's such like he is like very much a perfectionist. Like he plays the music with the girl that he said he went to school with, and he's like correcting her every like, you're not playing it like that. You're playing too high, and then he's like, how am I playing it? Oh, you're playing it like that. Yeah, exactly. Are you playing it like that? Like he seems like, and he does really seem like any little thing could just set him off. Uh,
You keep meeting his family too. They go to the family store, and
yeah.
then it feels like they know that he is a killer, and they're totally okay with it. Like they're in
Well,
the know.
that was one of the things I read that I didn't know before. That is his actual family,
Hmm.
and they said when they were filming, they thought that they were just making a movie about like their son. They thought people were just like that they just wanted to film him. So they said like pretty much I guess like most of that is just them being like our son's such a nice boy. Like he's just a great guy. Like they didn't know what the film actually was that he was playing a serial killer till it got released. So I guess that is like just their reaction to it. I'm sure they I wonder what they thought when it was like, okay, in this scene, I'm in jail. Why are you in jail? I thought they were making a movie about your life. Don't worry about it. Just show up to the jail and talk to me. Are
I
you in
mean,
trouble?
it
No.
works for if they really are not actors. That makes a ton of sense to get pretty realistic performances. I'd recently saw Southland Tales, and the very beginning of that before the bomb goes off, and it's just like kids playing and shit. That is honestly just kids playing. He gave the camera to his like nephews to run around and film shit. So it is kids just having a good time. But I feel like if you're directing these people, you'd be losing your mind trying to get them to authentically say what you want them to say. So, hey, mom and dad, it's just a documentary. Don't worry about it. Here's the jail scene, but you're not really in jail. It's not a documentary anymore.
In this scene, I've broken my neck. From what? It doesn't matter. I just have a broken neck. You just have to take care of me. Even that scene's weird too. When he's in the hospital, he has that guy next to him, and he's like, "Did you shit your pants?" And the guy, old guy's just like, "Yes, I shit my pants all the time."
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the nurse comes in and she's like, "Oh my god, again?" He's like, "You know you love it. You that's the only reason you come in here."
He's really good too when they're showing more so in the beginning. He's kind of shy about the camera. And then as the movie progresses, he's not as shy. There's shots in the beginning where he can't look directly at the camera. Like he keeps looking away, like he feels uncomfortable. But then later he's just like, here, give me that camera. Hey, if you guys are running out of money or whatever, don't worry about it. I'll pitch in.
Yeah, and then they also have a very much like a Spinal Tap kind of thing where they keep their sound man keeps getting killed. I think they go through like three different sound men through the film. They always keep getting shot, and he's just like, oh yeah, well Patrick was a good guy, but I guess it happens. Guess we'll just have to move on.
Right, because those real abrupt cuts they have of them murdering people, and then there are three times, if not more, of them having a casual conversation where he's just bragging about something, and then they all just start getting shot at by you have no fucking clue.
That's yeah. You get all your information about this character from like those little moments in between the murder. Like the murders are just these like real fast flashes.
Fat
Uh,
flashes.
there's real fat flashes. Like another moment that I love too is when they chase a guy into like a warehouse or
Yeah.
like some type of factory or something like that. But then they all have to stop because he's like, hold on, what? I lost my bracelet. I'm like, what? He's like, my metal bracelet. It had my name on it. And they're like, oh, was that really important to you? He goes, yeah. There's not a lot of kids to steal that from, are there? Not a lot of kids with my name. Which again implies that at some point, yeah, even though he says like I don't like killing kids, like he's definitely killed a kid just because he had his name on a bracelet and he wanted it.
And now he left his name at a potential crime scene.
Yeah. When he has the entire film crew and they're still chasing that guy, like they still haven't established that guy is somewhere in this factory with a gun and he wants to kill them as well, and they're all just like going around. He's just like, "Did you find it? No. What's that shiny thing by your foot? You got to look at that. What is that?
And the other
Nothing.
film crew,
What?"
that's great too.
Yeah, when they just run into those other guys. Oh, you guys got some nice equipment. What's this? Oh, that's video. What are we doing? Film. And he just like throws the camera on the ground.
Film's better. Yes, it is.
Film's better. Yeah, I just love when he just drops it. Yeah, what are we shooting on? Film. Okay. Oh god.
He's one of the directors because there's three directors in this, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming I'm assuming it's pretty much everybody you see that's the film crew.
It's him the guy Remy that's the producer that he talks to most, and then the other guy you don't see is the guy that's holding the
The
camera in the frame
cameraman.
because he is the cinematographer. Yeah, and he's the other director. Yeah, I had to look up because I was wondering if any of these guys did anything, which pretty much just the main guy Ben, who's the actor. Um, he's the only one. He's still making films in France and Belgium today. The one that's the cinematographer killed himself, and the other guy, Remy, never did anything else. So I don't know why. It's weird. I don't know if just this movie if it had a bad impact on him, or because of all the controversy that it had for being too graphic, that the other guys never really did anything.
I mean, that could potentially hurt them, but I don't know. I feel like if it's at Cannes, you have a lot of people, at least from different countries, that are enjoying that, and maybe somebody would back a project. Or maybe they don't trust you with anything more cinematic because they probably thought you were playing around and maybe got lucky cutting it together and it being so interesting. It's hard to judge when you only see the one movie. And like you said, we haven't seen anything else from that guy, the main guy, right? You said he's still making movies, but have you heard of any of them? Have you seen them?
No, they're all they're all French. They're all French. Do we look like we watch French films? Come on.
We have, and we will again.
Yeah, I guess he mostly is doing comedies, which I, that that's my one thought is that comedies don't always transfer over. Like we don't like if we get films from a lot of foreign countries, yeah, it's always the same ones you're thinking of from like that you'll see at the Academy Awards. They're all the very serious dramas. Like we don't get a lot of the comedies
Yeah, you're
from these
fucking right. Well, they don't
countries.
respect our comedies in the award seasons. But yeah, that would be great to have. Yeah, you're right. This is a very poor vagrant that just goes around and starves to death, and that's our country's movie. And you don't get something like, this is about a serial killer and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. They only go for the most serious films at the Academy Awards. The ones that'll really bring you down. Like because what the big the big one this year for foreign film is where's the one is Zone of Interest, which is
Yeah.
I've heard is like one of the most depressing films to watch because it's all about concentration camps and that being like super miserable. And
I
I
did
think the
see it, and
other
it was a rough movie because
yeah
the concept of it's probably the most artsy film nominated this year for Best Picture. The idea is these people go along living their normal ass lives while they're right outside of Auschwitz concentration camp. And you can like hear people getting shot. It's smoking and they can't take the smell of the bodies. It doesn't show anything inside the concentration camp, but these people, they just keep ignoring it and living their lives like they're actually the husband of the family is stationed there. They all know what's happening. It is so terrible just by the fact that they're not concerned remotely about those people. Well, there's some characters that are, but the main family is not concerned at all. They're more concerned about getting a promotion or a demotion, and it's out there too because this guy, his name Jonathan Glazer, is that how you say his name?
yeah.
The only other movie of his I watched, and there are some more on the Criterion channel, so I'll probably check them out. I haven't seen Sexy Beast or Birth, but I did see Under the Skin. And if you've seen that movie, yeah,
I never
it's
did. Like I know what it. I know what it is, but like I never sat down and watched it.
it's really hard to explain. He feels a lot like bits and pieces of Stanley Kubrick from 2001. The beginning of Zone of Interest is literally just black and you're just hearing the sound, just sounds, no music or anything. But then it goes into crazy ass shit where things will like turn fucking red, or there's night sequences, and the night sequences are always shot like in with a film negative, so they look like everyone's white and glowing. It's really fucking weird.
Hmm.
Japan's thing this year is the Wim Wenders movie that just is like a guy in Japan that has a
Just a
hard
super
life.
average guy that
Yeah.
just has an incredibly average life.
And
Like
I'm
that
sure
is
there's more to it that has blown people's minds. But
yeah.
yeah, it always surprises me what they pick from these countries. It's
I
always
mean, hey, we at least got Godzilla nominated for some sort of Academy Award.
visual
Didn't get
effects,
foreign
but the
language, but
director also did the visual effects on it.
yeah,
And they did it with less money and less people, and it looks way better than most things.
it
So
looks way better than a lot of the stuff that's being cranked
hopefully
out.
it's got something going for it at least.
Yeah,
They were all proud of it too. Like I thought it would be maybe foreign or maybe it could sneak in the best picture because I do think it's worthy to be there.
yeah.
But them to be like visual effects, fuck yeah. Godzilla's never been nominated at all for an Academy Award.
for
This is big
anything.
news.
Yeah.
I do think they did a good job of touching on the generic information that we've all come to know about killers, where it feels like more of a comedy. We got the year before Silence of the Lambs. You got this highly intelligent killer, and this is like the dumb version of it. And I mean, I didn't even know what world he was kind of in. Where I mean, obviously, I took the murders as a crime that it was taking place in our world, but he's so blatant about what he's doing. I don't know if we're in some
Yeah.
supposed
Well,
to be
because
in
I
some
mean,
other
a lot
dimension
of
or some shit.
a lot of the people that he talks to, like you were saying, he pretty much like openly talks about killings, like while he's at the bar, and
Hmm.
then when they talk to the woman that like used to be a model, but now she's just kind of like a lonely middle-aged woman living by herself. I think they ask like, "Oh, you know what he does for work, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." Like, she doesn't get into the details, but she knows that's what he does because he references something about, yeah, there was a guy that said she couldn't be in the like couldn't be doing something or couldn't be at the club or something. He's like, let's just say that guy's not around anymore. And like his friend that's the musician that he went to school with or something. He I think they also ask her like, well, you know what Ben does for a living, right? And she's like, yeah. I mean, I know he does. I know some of the stuff that he does. He's just such a weird guy. I do get the. I also thought of Bill Maher when I looked at him. Like he looks like the Belgian Bill Maher. He has that same look to him. But yeah, he thinks he's like the coolest guy. Definitely doesn't think that any of his actions will have consequences. Even at the end when he
I
starts
mean, they
getting
don't for so long. I kind of
yeah,
get him feeling that way.
when he starts getting the the movie really does take a turn. It really is at the when he gets punched. It's almost like him getting knocked out in the boxing ring like brings everything like to a screeching halt, and he just can't do anything. He can't seem to figure anything out. He's not able to. His thing about like knocking out mailmen and stealing their uniforms to get into people's houses. He tries to like get that guy and take him down, but he's so bumbling that he can't do anything. And then he blames the camera guys like, "Wow, you guys just weren't gonna back me up there. You're just gonna let me fail."
I thought the story arc was took a little bit to get into, but I thought it was he's pretty much the same character from beginning to end, but you do kind of start getting to see the film crew. They start becoming more involved. They were all kind of becoming killers. And I thought it was going in that direction where like something would happen to him and they were just going to continue their killing sprees. The only thing that I didn't find funny though, Chuck, was the weird gang rape scene that they had with that husband and wife. They had him at a knife to his throat, and then they cut her all open and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
that was like the one thing that made me think of it was just trying to be extreme and offend or something. I wasn't offended as much as I thought this is a comedy, and then I got to that scene where I'm like, okay, I don't even know what I don't even know what this is.
After that, that's when we start to get more of the other some of the other weird stuff, like the everyone's getting packages in the mail of animals with like sticks impaled through them.
Hmm.
He's
The
like, oh,
rats and shit.
he's like, I think that's that Italian guy that I killed a couple weeks ago. And they're like, so what's this a sign of? Oh, it's a sign that his family's
Oh yeah,
gonna
like
kill
his
me.
his
And he's
brother
like,
or something keeps is like after him.
he's
Yeah.
like, I don't think it's serious though. Those guys are jokes. They're not serious. Which definitely turns out to not be correct since they murder everybody around him before finally killing him and the film crew. Uh, which does lead to like yeah, we get that other weird scene of where he goes to the uh, the musician friend's apartment and she has the flute in her ass. And then when he goes to like his parents' house and he's like they're like uh is everything okay in there? And he was like Well, my mom wasn't a musician. Is that what you're asking?
They put this broom in her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they used the broom.
And it reminded me a lot of Henry, actually. But if Henry was
Yeah,
funny,
more intentionally funny.
Henry did have that really good, funny scene when they went to the black market guy that was selling them the
Yeah,
camcorder and shit. That was extremely funny.
that would be in this film. Yeah, like them going to get a new camera after one of theirs breaks and being like, which one do we want? We want the good one, right? Like we want the one that shoots on film, not video.
Yeah, and it does. It has a lot of really good documentary type moments too. Like that woman that was like the model or at the club
Yeah,
or whatever the hell she was. And they throw the keys down and he can't open. It's like 3 tries at trying to figure out what key opens the door.
yeah, him trying that. I also love the moment too when they're like, he sneaks up and kills the guy on the job site,
Hmm.
and he's like he has like the most offensive things imaginable. He's like, the poor guy, he was black. That's not fair. I could barely see him in this light. I can't believe they'd do something to me like that. And he just has like those, like he's constantly making like weird things, and he's like,
Talking about the
uh,
Arab guys he buried and
yeah. And then he's like, oh, you know what? This is a good time. We can see if it's true what they say. Hey, take his pants off. And he's just like, whoa, man. I don't know how he walks around with that thing. It's like so awkward that he's like, okay, well, he can put his pants back on and go bury him. He's like, I'm not touching that thing. I think he might have something.
that's probably like the first moment that the crew starts becoming involved because the
I think so.
crew gets that guy out of there. Oh, I was thinking too. I just thought of it now with Tarantino loved this movie. I wonder if he took the moment from this film and put it into Inglorious Bastards, where they're finding the money under the bed. He's just like, bingo,
Oh yeah.
bingo. That's a bingo. Like that's what I was thinking.
Probably. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in this movie that feels like, yeah, it just fits perfectly in with Tarantino's
And we
mindset.
keep
I
bringing
love
him
the
up because when we did Extends, we were talking about Jennifer Jason Leigh's feet.
that yeah, that's where
How she had to have got Hateful Eight. Had to have.
I could 100% see another moment that's in this that feels again, it almost feels like the moment in Pulp Fiction when he's playing around with the gun and he shoots that guy that's
Yeah.
when they're all at his birthday party, and he's like he does it on purpose, like it's obviously not an accident, but it feels very much the same way of like shooting Marvin. Like he's just like, they buy him that holster and he's like, it's cool, man, give me my revolver. And then he's like practicing his draw, and that guy's like laughing and making too much noise, and he's like annoying him, and he just like keeps doing it, and the camera keeps like whipping back and forth showing him pull the gun out over and over until finally he shoots it and kills that guy. And then the other two women are just sitting there with blood splattered all over them, and everyone just has to like pretend that it's normal and just keep moving on with the dinner. But I was that was 100% made me think of John Travolta with Pulp Fiction, like hey man, just like playing around with a gun, just it goes off and blood goes everywhere.
There's so many scenes. It felt like scene after scene was really well thought out. You made me think of the other dinner scene where they went to go get mussels to celebrate.
Oh yeah,
He's like, I could really go for some mussels. And the first thing he does, that waiter comes over and he's like, dude, you got to start taking care of your face. Because he's all broken out with
yeah,
like acne and shit. But then he just starts vomiting. And he's like, they must have been bad mussels. And the rest of the film crew is
like we
saying,
didn't get sick.
nah, they were fine with me. I don't know what happened.
The scene before, I thought you were even going to bring up the scene before that, which I love of when he brings that up, like, man, I could sure go for some mussels and French
Hmm.
fries, like, and everyone, Andre's got something that he's doing later, and he's like, oh, well, I mean, well, you can cancel your plans. Like, come on, man, we got to go out and celebrate. And
We
then
don't want to offend the serial
they're
killer.
like, yeah, they're like, well, no, I think we had like other things. Maybe we'll do it next time. And he's just like, yeah, sure. I guess I'll just go like not have muscles by myself or something. He's just walking off, and then he like keeps looking over his shoulder, like, like, are they gonna
Hmm.
apologize to me and come? And then it just immediately cuts to them all in the restaurant. They all change their mind.
Well, when that first sound guy dies too, it's really funny where the producer Remy gets upset and he starts kicking him, kicking his body, like why'd this
Yeah.
have to happen? And the killer says, "You have to calm down. It's like a slippery slope. Like in 1 minute you're kicking him, and the next minute you're gonna be like shooting people."
Yeah. Like he's like, this is how you'll turn into someone like me. It's like you don't want to do that. Come on.
Yeah, I guess the thing I was most surprised with what we were picking, because I felt like even though we mentioned it in the beginning of the show, Blair Witch Project, Cloverfield, technically what I picked, and your next movie, they're
Uh huh.
all horror. They really fall into the horror genre.
There's
And
not.
I mean, I know there's killings and it's disturbing, but this does feel more comedy, and I can't think of like a found footage comedy movie really.
No. No, not that I can really think of. Yeah, it's definitely it's weird that the genre is. It just doesn't lend itself to other types. Like, not saying that it's impossible. I'm sure someone could make a great. Well, I guess. I guess maybe you'd say Project X. That's kind of how that was built. Is
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's supposed to be that those kids wake up the next morning and they're like, I don't remember
Hmm.
anything that happened. Like, let's watch the camera, and they see everything that they did. So, I guess that's maybe the only other attempt at doing something in a similar way of like a documentary style found footage that is a comedy. I guess that's always the hard thing about the premise. Like when you're trying to sell it as, oh, they found footage. It, a romantic comedy doesn't fall into that because it's like, well, what the hell would there be like lost footage of
What
that
happened to
from
the
or something?
people?
Or yeah, yeah, yeah. In the end, that has to be the assumption is that the reason you're finding footage is because the person's dead. So it almost immediately has to go to some sort of horror type scenario film, or leaning more into sci-fi with something like Cloverfield. But yeah, that's I guess the entire reason of why it goes there. If you found the footage, it's because the person's dead.
Or it'd be very hard to make satisfying if they're alive. Like, what would the romance be? They accidentally dropped their GoPro into the ocean. Yeah.
Off the cruise ship.
They didn't fall off, just the camera. They just lost that
Yeah.
camera.
It was one of those things though, like when found footage did start blowing up, and like Paranormal Activity really was the big one. But
I mean, it grew
there was a
Blumhouse,
time when
and
you
I got a lot of
couldn't.
Blumhouse movies I like, so I can't
Yeah,
be upset with the franchise.
there was a lot there where it was just every other week was something else found footage. uh and I don't, it is something that I would say it's hard to do well. I think it's very easy to just, you know, basically just put a camera. Uh, what was that one? Diary of the Dead, the Romero one. That's basically just, hey, look at zombie movies, and this guy recorded it with a camera. Like he did nothing. There was nothing original to the idea. It was just the idea of, hey, zombie apocalypse, but a guy filmed it.
It would have been better if he was still around and he made it later, and it could be more maybe the Generation Z TikTok generation or something. But the camcorder just, yeah, there wasn't any substance to that movie. Maybe he did have a good social commentary, but the cast sucked. I don't know. Romero to me is kind of hit and miss. I don't think he's the best director, but he's made some of the best movies out there. But not all of his movies are good. I don't, you know.
Yeah. There's been some other good ones though. Uh another one that's not necessarily a. I guess it does get a little horror. Would be like Chronicle. I think Chronicle's still a good movie.
I wasn't
Might
thinking about that. That's like strong superhero, but it is kind of horror by the end of the
yeah.
third act of that movie.
We kind of get it for a little bit of District 9, but then it switches to a regular movie after the first 20 minutes, half hour when it switches over. So we get a little bit of found footage out of something like that. Uh
I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't do more of. I like the idea that what District 9 did, where they had like news stories intertwined in it too. And it makes me think of Stephen King's Carrie, which is written from the perspective of like news articles and interviews. And I feel like if you're making that into a movie documentary, you could probably do the found footage aspect mixed in with what was going on the news and stuff, where other people, you could get footage that way, or have interviews on top of the on top of the fact of like maybe the found footage, these people are missing, but you're still talking to like parents in the real time or something, or in the present time, I mean to say. But yeah, that was great. I'm glad that you picked it. It is not what I was expecting at all, and I enjoyed it. That's usually how I work, though, and you know that.
Yeah, like I said, I tried to go with something a little different, not just the standard found footage.
Well, you found the unique one.
I did find it. That is true. Someone had to find it.
Did you watch next week's movie already, or is that going to be new to you? Lake Mungo.
Yes, I've seen that one. I did
Okay.
have to remember. I
I knew
almost
you
remember which
forgot.
one's the
Your
next one.
brain's just like shot from being at work all day.
Well, see, the
Yeah.
next two movies are a lot closer in release time than this one was. Like, I 100% knew that this one was the first one, but the other two, I was like, did the did Lake Mungo come out before the other one? I was
Yeah.
like, I can't remember. They're both in the 2000s.
We'll get into the details, but I watched that for the first time only a couple years ago, and not when it was a part of the 8 films to die for, or whatever the fuck series it was.
I know. I was like, that was probably in Hollywood Video, and I never like. We had all those movies all the time, and I always looked
We
at them and
did.
was
We
like,
had every
those
single
look
one of them.
terrible. Like, and I never watched any of them until I finally saw this one because I saw it was. Other people were like, yeah, this for being one of these cheap like movies in the series, like it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I had like a nice second sight edition. It's got real sweet, and they're like, yeah, that would have been $3.99 at Hollywood Video back in the day.
Yeah,
They were like throwing them away, like throwing it in the
yeah.
trash.
We can't get rid of these things fast enough.
Yeah, it would definitely be the movies that we would recommend, like not recommend.
Yeah,
What do you think about these? I don't know. People bitch and say they're terrible, so I don't really know.
I feel like that's the one that you'd see like every Halloween. People would be like, ah, man, I've seen everything else. I guess I'll watch these ones.
Yeah, I saw Transmorphers a few times. I'm going to try this Lake Mungo. And if you like Transmorphers, you're probably not going to like Lake Mungo. Like, I don't think that you're the same audience at all. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if I would love to go back in time and ask our customers that were at Hollywood Video that were watching all of these movies. I bet you they like Lake Mungo the least.
I would 100% say the exact same thing. Yeah.
That's what I feel.
By a lot of people, I didn't get it. What was
It was
happening?
so slow. I had to think.
I mean, the other films that came out at the same time as that, one of them is called ZMD, Zombies of Mass Destruction. So I'm sure that was the one everyone really wanted to watch.
I'm sure it was. I kind of want to watch it, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Now that you heard that title, you're like, oh, that actually does sound pretty good.
You know, once Arrow releases it, I guess I'll have to see it.
Yeah.
That's the only way to go about it.
Uh,
But yeah, good pick. Definitely seek it out. It is misleading. Looking at the cover, I thought it was like a noir or something. It's just a guy like firing a gun. Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't even read the description. So thank you, Chuck. Thanks for the introduction. That was a good one.
yep.
And like we said, Lake Mungo, Chuck's second pick as we get through found footage. Between this episode and that episode, though, we will have our usual Academy Awards episode. I'll have some friends on if everything goes smoothly and everybody doesn't jump ship. That happens sometimes. We'll figure out how good my friends are. I don't know if Chuck's even wants to be involved with that, but that'll be like a Tuesday. That'll come out Tuesday. So Exciting times. Yep, pretty exciting. And we're always releasing these things. We're pretty far ahead of our schedule recording this one, but that's fine. I'm actually really kind of excited to see the Cohen movie I worked on, Drive Away Dolls. It's positive, but it sounds kind of abrasive with some people. And I heard that the comedy in it was good and not like what was that one? Intolerable Cruelty or whatever. Maybe the Lady Killers, but I don't mind the Lady Killers that much. I'll agree it's not their best, but I don't think the Lady Killers is bad, or else I'm just, I don't know. I have a low bar humor. I'm just okay with it.
The Lady Killers, it's such a weird movie because there's so much of that movie that I haven't watched it in probably 10, 15 years.
But
But
you
I
still
still
think about
remember,
it?
I still think about there's such weird stuff. I think like the part I always think about is J.K. Simmons in that movie because he's just constantly telling people how he has IBS and like what that's about, and like Marlon Wayne's being like, I don't want to hear about what you're doing all the time. He's like, hey man, IBS is a really serious problem. It affects a lot of people.
You sound like
It's
J.K.
nothing to laugh
Simmons.
at. I don't know why that one part always sticks with me when he's just constantly being like, I got IBS. It's a problem. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And next week, the week after that, the weeks before this episode came out, Dune. I'm excited to see the second part of Dune.
Yeah,
I'm rereading the
pretty
book,
good.
and then I'm going to just go through and read Messiah and Children of Dune since I haven't read them yet. And then I'll probably stop there. I don't know if it's worth going any further. Did you read beyond the first book?
I've read it all.
You've read all 6 or beyond the 6?
There's like 8 total.
I think the Frank Herbert ones are
He
6.
wrote 6, yeah. And there's 2 or 3 more that was
There are like
on Sun.
30 of them now.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into like all the. I've read the entire main story. I haven't read all the prequels and side things that.
I have no idea what I'm getting into, but I do like the refresh for what's going on, and it doesn't really matter because if they do make Messiah, which it sounds like they fucking will, and it's gonna be in a few, like it sounds like it's gonna be at least 3-4 years away because Denis Villeneuve wants to do something else between those movies. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how it turns out. Everybody's like, it's a masterpiece, and I'm like, I'm sure it probably is, just based off of all the other movies I've seen of Villeneuve. And then I don't really know. We do have some good movies that are coming out this year in general, but they're going to be so spread out. And there's 2 more strikes that are potential to come up this year. IOTC and the Teamsters, so I don't know. Maybe we'll never have movies again.
It'll be, yeah, it'll be great. Just the world of never-ending strikes.
Yeah. They'll be like, we can't release Mickey 7 yet, or they're calling it Mickey 17, I think. But the new Bong Joon-ho movie with Robert Pattinson, it sounds like it's finished, but WB doesn't have the money to release it theatrically unless Joker does well or some shit like that. So it doesn't sound
That's what
too
they
good
saved
for
all
that.
that money from canceling Batgirl and the Wile E. Coyote movie and everything else they just canceled. Like I thought that's what they were saving all that money up for.
Somebody said when they can these movies for the insurance, they should become instantly public domain or something, or at least free. I 100% agree. Like, throw that shit up on YouTube or something. Give it to the people like we do, Chuck. That's what we do every week on this podcast. And I'm going to shut the fuck up now. Let you guys go on with the rest of your day, and we'll be back next week with 2, the Academy Awards and Lake Mungo. Stay tuned.
We are Cinema d'Amore. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with news and information on upcoming episodes. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Alexa, or iHeartRadio. It would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to our podcast on your platform of choice. We also appreciate feedback, so rate us, review us, and let us know what you think. And above all else, thank you for listening.